Welcome back to Security Token Show interviews. This week we have Yuval joining us from Digital Asset. Yuval, how are you today?
I'm great, Jason. How are you?
Doing great, doing great. You guys have very, very eye-opening news that came out. I think the whole industry has heard about it by now, but it's a pleasure to have you to dive a little deeper. You guys just raised a monster round, $135 million. Easy Labs just today, you guys announced is also joining in on that round. Tell us a little bit about your experience raising capital, what institutional focus looks like in terms of tokenization and their approach to it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think that it's an interesting time to raise money, especially for this space, and there's a lot of also a lot of challenges. I think that if I look back months as we were putting this together, I think that what probably resonated the most is that we weren't talking in future tense about Canton Network and talking more about, what's happening right now and where people can participate right now. And I think that, us being patient, we skipped ICOs. We didn't do an ICO. We didn't do a pre-mine. We've been very patient and had a long-term vision of what we're trying to build. And I think that patience paid off. So I think that institutional players know how to ride momentum, but they also like to invest in value. And I think, having a real story of, what is available now, how they can participate now, was probably a very important component of it.
100%. Makes total sense, right? Slow and steady, but doing it right the right way. And you do have, I think that it's worth noting the people that did participate, right? DRW, Tradeweb Markets, BNP Paribas, and so forth. These are big names that are participating. Tell us a little bit, and I know it's a strategic round too, so tell us a little bit about maybe what the non-obvious superpowers or value adds that some of these investors bring to the table for Canton, other than just a simple cash infusion.
Yeah, listen, I think that I'm pretty sure that when we talked last, one of the things that I said is, one of the biggest differentiators of Canton is the ability to do configurable privacy on chain, which is very different than what a lot of others are calling privacy, which to us is anonymity. And I think that once you start getting into the nuance, detail, and difference, the type of players we work with understand it. And I mentioned that payments, collateral management are probably two really good use cases. Just yesterday I heard from someone who works for a very large publicly traded company that a lot of stablecoin providers have pitched them to do intercompany payments, and they're like, "We're a publicly traded company. Why would we want the whole world to see what is our activity?" So, payments and collateral management is something that we're very much focused on. And, if you look at the businesses of those organizations, they do a lot of payments and a lot of collateral management. So it kind of gives you a hint, and maybe also related to the announcement that happened the day after we announced our round last week.
Absolutely. And I do want to touch on that announcement. But just before we do, I do have to ask, in terms of use of funds and whatnot, what next steps look like for you guys? Where would you say you would, allocate the first incremental dollar of the raise? Would it be like R&D or ecosystem incentives, integrations with clients? Any light that you can shine on that?
Sure. So, the round, the funds, so first of all, as a company, we don't necessarily needed the funds from a growth perspective, but it's more of really was important to have these type of players be part of the cap table. The use of funds is primarily going to be around three areas. One is there is an insane demand right now for Canton. And, we're going to continue to focus on scalability, developer experience, security, all of those features. We believe that we're in good shape, but there's always more work to do. So, growing the product and engineering team. There's going to be another angle that, a lot of people recently have told me, where is this Canton coming from? We've never heard about it, which to some extent is intentional. Again, I think that it was, to me, very important to come with a different story of, again, rather than just, hey, we're launching another L1 and the future is bright, but actually to say, look, we've been working on this for so long, quietly, under covers, and now it's time to actually show what is the value. So, a big part of it is going to be around marketing, branding. We just hired a new CMO, Jonathan Isaac from CoinMarketCap, who joined our team, and very excited to be working with him. So that's going to be another area of growth. And then the last one is, there are a few opportunities that we will reveal in the next months that bring what I call an asymmetrical value to the network, right? So if I think of a public network, there's probably three tenants to the network. It's the users, it's the assets, and then it's the applications that brings the users to the assets, right? So
Yeah.
there's a few entities that control very unique assets, and there are a few companies that can create applications, and I call those relationships like these are the asymmetrical relationships that, if you can bring them into the network, you create this really like convexity in the value of the network. So the third use of funds is going to be co-investing in some of these relationships. How do we help accelerate some of those relationships coming to the network faster and more efficient?
Makes sense to me, right? You're not just bridging, TradFi and DeFi, but also the players themselves, the infrastructure to bring it all together, which I think is part of why tokenization and real world assets have taken their sweet time
And I
to
think
get to market
maybe
here.
just on that, I think that
Yeah,
what's unique about how we as a member of the Canton Found, I think that it's not to confuse with us effectively going to pay for relationships. That's not what we do, both at Digital Asset and at Canton. All of the growth at Canton so far has been organic, and because people see the value. When I say invest, it's really if there are partners that think that some piece of infrastructure needs to be built for them to really add value, we, a digital asset, would be willing to put some skin in the game to kind of help build that infrastructure to accelerate. But as a matter of policy, and the foundation is we don't buy partners, and I think that that's an important distinction that we would like to bring to the crypto market.
100%, 100% makes sense, and I think that obviously results speak for themselves, and of course the merit of Canton will, of course, earn some of these relationships, right? Which brings me to the piece of news that you kind of hinted at earlier. I know collateral mobility and management is a focus for you guys, which is the fact that you guys are now working with Nasdaq Calypso, also QCP and Primrose Capital involved here for collateral and risk management. So tell us a little bit about this piece of news and what KPIs maybe you guys would be looking at as convincing you that this is transitioning from proof of concept over to more scalability type of business.
Sure. So listen, I think that one of the challenges of crypto networks is, how do you onboard the institutional players? So there's a lot of solutions, and there's going to be more solutions in Canton for retail players around wallets and different applications that you can consume. But really, the opportunity, and this is what everybody's trying to go after, is how do I integrate into the large institutional players? Like, how do we start really seeing the movement of large scale assets? And the work with Nasdaq, which has been phenomenal, and I really need to thank Matt from Nasdaq for being a great partner there. But it's really, how do you bridge those worlds? And I think that a lot of times people at crypto underappreciate not only how challenging the integration is, but if you change the way that people manage their business, you're going to have a challenge. So rather than think about, moving collateral on Canton as like a brave new world, it's actually no different than what you do today. You need to move initial margin or variation margin. It's literally the same. It's governed by the same documents, the ISDA agreements, CSA agreements, there's the same terms, eligible collateral, there's all kinds of, like, everything looks the same. It's just that if before I would send messages and the collateral will move with a delay of minutes, hours, days, now it moves in real time. So you're effectively saying, I'm not changing the way you're conducting your business. I'm not changing the fundamentals of your business. I'm introducing new asset classes that you could do it with, the same asset classes that you're already doing it. And it's just that the velocity of those assets is much faster. So by integrating to Calypso, you're not changing that behavior at the customers, and now they can just integrate and benefit from Canton without really boiling the ocean. So, that's why I'm very excited about that. Those are the type of integrations and partners that I stated early that we would love to invest in, because again, I think that we're not trying to reinvent finance. We're actually trying to allow finance to behave the way it was designed to, which I think today it still doesn't.
And why would you say it still doesn't today? What are maybe some of those limiting factors?
Yeah, I'll give you a very simple example. A lot of people talk about DVP, delivery versus payment, and they've been talking about it for many years. I would actually say that in financial services today, with all of the quadrillion, trillions, whatever numbers that you want to say of assets that have been processed over the last 10, 100 years, we still don't have DVP in capital markets. There is no true delivery versus payment. So the concept of delivery versus payment is that you have the payment ledger and the asset ledger effectively update at the same time. They settle at the same time. And as a result of that, you still rely on intermediaries to orchestrate those transactions. And as a result of that, you still have settlement risk, which for the most part doesn't reveal itself. 100% of the time during the day, these things work well until the time that it doesn't. And then it's a nightmare. So that's just a very simple example of something that we used to say a lot. We have DVP, we have PVP, we have DVD, but we don't truly have that. And that's one of the opportunities in Canton is, for example, to deliver those things, this ability to orchestrate a transaction atomically across ledgers. And I can keep on going. There's this whole, like, what you call a perfection of a security. There's just more, more things that you could add to the list of how finance was supposed to work. And I think that now we can actually bring that to the forefront.
Absolutely. And just to close out that thought there on the payment leg there, would you say it's more beneficial then to have stable coins? Or we recently saw JP Morgan with their deposit token come into play. Maybe share any thoughts on like stable coins versus deposit tokens and their respective roles.
Yeah, listen, I think that we think of money as a fungible asset, but money itself does not have the same risk characteristics. I'll give a very simple example. A lot of times people will say that bank money is equal, but probably if you had money at Silicon Valley Bank, when you start hearing that the bank might be going down, maybe your deposits were not worth, the same as your deposit at JP Morgan. And the reason I bring this up is because when we think about money, our instinct is to think that it's all fungible, which is just not true. So I just think that at the end of the day, money has characteristics that might make it compelling. Maybe money at JP Morgan is worth more than money at Citi. And I'm not making kind of a statement. It's more than right. I personally, so that's just more of this idea. And I think that you could start thinking of stable coins into that category. And we're probably going to see new issuers that we've never thought about create their own stable coins. And suddenly their stable coins will come with their own characteristics of risks that are associated with the issuer, but also with a whole set of benefits. So I don't think that there's an answer which one is better. I think it's what is the use of that, right? So there are reasons why you would want to do business with a specific bank because maybe they make you into a private bank client, and as a result of that, you get better rates on loans. That's potentially a benefit of money, right? Is it worth the counterparty risk? Potentially. So I don't think that there's like a black and white answer to that question.
Gotcha. And it's only going to get even more interesting as Circle, Ripple, and others are now applying for bank licenses as well, and see how that evolves their services and so forth. Moving on from that side, maybe just thinking about next steps here. You guys just raised a fresh round. You guys did the integration with Calypso. After this Calypso news, what other mission critical treasury or risk systems do you foresee plugging into for Canton?
So I won't tell you what are the next announcements that are coming on the show. Maybe we'll talk about them next time when we meet.
Yeah.
But I think that what you've seen, and to me, it's super exciting, is this whole tokenization, right? It's like this whole mad rush, all of these announcements. And one of the things that I like to draw the attention is I think tokenization is not a great high level term, because it kind of, again, makes all of these things seem fungible. Oh, I tokenized equities. Is the token really the equity? Well, for the most part today, it's not. And one of our biggest missions at Digital Asset and the Canton ecosystem is how do we convince issuers, whether it's a CSD or an issuer of a private asset, to actually trust Canton to be their official books and records. Most tokenization platforms today do everything off-chain, and now you're just taking more counterparty risk to hope that what they're doing off-chain is actually what they're representing on-chain. What I think we can actually do in Canton is convince issuers to actually make the chain the official books and records of the asset. And then it starts to look like crypto markets. The reason why crypto to me is super exciting and DeFi is because when I send a crypto asset into a DeFi protocol, I have perfected the security. There is no off-chain system. Nobody can go and borrow against that token. Nobody can go and sell that token to someone else. That's it. It's locked in a DeFi protocol. What we're trying to do is get the same type of behavior on real-world assets. And I think that when that unlock happens, we're going to see, I don't know. I mean, I heard someone says a seismic shift in markets when something like that happens, because today, perfecting a security, meaning that nobody else can claim on it, is not a trivial task, and it's a pretty expensive task. So I think that once you start actually showing that you can do all of that natively on chain because of the privacy control properties that Canton brings, I think that's when you're going to truly see the unlock of tokenization.
Makes sense, right? Having digitally native pretty much everything, right? Having it composable, configurable on the privacy side, of course. And you're right. I mean, it's going to allow for different products to be built on those tokenized assets, whether it's an on-chain ETF or an on-chain, rebalancing of portfolios where everything is already tokenized natively. It'll be a lot easier, not to mention, of course, all the other use cases with collateral and so forth. So I'm right there with you, Yuval. I can't wait to hear what else comes from you guys, as you guys are consistently in the news as we cover you guys here on the show. So yeah, excited to see, along those lines, what those next announcements come out to be. Yuval, anything else that you want to make sure that listeners, make sure to know from Canton in the meantime?
We would love for everyone to join the network, and as more and more services become live with some stable coins. I think that I just posted, I think that privacy is a human right, and I think that a lot of people came to accept in crypto that you don't get privacy, and that's almost a feature. I actually don't think that it should be a feature. And I think that, now we'll be able to send stable coins with privacy and much more. So we'd love for people to keep following what we're doing, and, we'd love for the next time we talk.
Well, I know we sure will be. So thank you so much for joining us and taking the time to chat, Yuval. It's always a great conversation with you.
Perfect. Thank you so much.